Once upon a time, a little girl became very sick and lost all her memories. She was empty as the day she was born. But in that dark emptiness, the voice of God spoke, "Walk, talk, heal." And by grace through faith, she did. Soon, the girl was even fuller and more alive than before her forgetting. But the voice of God continued to speak to her, and soon he commanded, "Heal others as I have healed you. Teach them the power of faith, that it may connect them to me and my power." My name is Robin Renee Wilson, and that little girl was me. For the last 35 years, through my relationship with God, I have participated in many miracles of healing, prophecy, and deliverance. None of these should be possible, but that is God's way. You can accomplish anything, heal the deepest wounds, and create doors where there were only walls, if you simply trust in faith over facts. Hi, I'm Robin Renee Wilson, and I am super excited. Today is our very first episode of A Faith Over Facts. Oh my goodness, God has taken me through a faith journey, and I would love for you to join me on this journey as we experience faith over facts. Today, our topic is God who does the impossible. And my cousin Nevious is here to share this moment of my very first episode of A Faith Over Facts. Nevious, welcome.
Thank you, Robin. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I just wanted to tell me more about yourself, Nevious.
Sure, yeah. So personally, child of God. I think that's probably first and foremost to mention. Been in the church since I was little. My parents were in the church. And professionally, I work in business, marketing, and consulting. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing that for the past, 10 plus years, working for various companies, primarily in the early stage and tech industries.
Wow, okay. Mm-hmm. Wow, amazing. So you are now an entrepreneur.
That's correct, yes.
Which is amazing, but you didn't start off that way.
I didn't know.
Wow. No. So when you started off in these different companies, did you ever think that, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur? What made you get to this place?
Yeah, interestingly enough, so I'll take it back to the beginning and maybe tell you a little bit more about myself, and then that will sort of lead into it.
Okay.
So I started off undergrad, I was a biology major, and then added business because I thought, well, unless I try to become a doctor, biology majors don't make a ton of money. So I said, well, let me do something that could maybe get a little bit more, even though I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I was a business biology double major. And I came out of undergrad doing accounting. So I did that for a few years. Then I moved into finance. Then I moved into something called analytics, and then marketing. Okay. So I think even back in undergrad when I switched to business, I thought, well, I want to be a businessman. I didn't know exactly what that meant, but I thought it would be nice to have my own business. So from undergrad, fast forward to today, where I have my own business, my own small consulting business, there were a series of things that I went to. That could be jobs, it could be challenges, obstacles, blessings. So I think everything that I did from undergrad degree all the way up through grad school in different companies sort of led me to here. Place. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Wow. So when you decided to be, I want to go on a journey to be an entrepreneur, what did people think? Did they think, leaving, tell us about that. What did people think about you starting this journey?
Sure. So I have been very fortunate to work for some well-known companies. So coming out of undergrad, I worked for local government. Eventually, I worked for Pepsi for a few years. So that was great, doing finance for them, corporate finance. And then after I left Pepsi, I got into the .com space. So I did that for a few years. I ended up working for Tom's Shoes, working in e-commerce and digital marketing. And then after Tom's Shoes, I ended up working for Beats, which was then acquired by Apple. So Apple and Beats, both really, really successful companies, great companies to work for. A lot of, I'll say, diversity, whether that's people, ethnic backgrounds, ideas or ideologies. So there's a lot of, it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of learning experiences. There's a lot of visibility. And when I was working for Apple, there were actually a lot of opportunities to move on. So I took a couple of opportunities, and I was building up teams at Apple and then at other companies. And when I thought, way back when, I wanted to have my own business.
Yes. And
then I thought, well, I'm going to all these different places and I'm helping them make money, of course, for the business, but at what cost to myself? Not a lot of work-life balance, really long hours.
Yes.
And I've been very fortunate in that I've been able to work in roles where there is some flexibility as far as going to the office. However, I had another phone, or I'd have my email on my phone.
Yes.
And I think anybody that's seen that knows that, okay, if your job gives you a phone or you have your email attached to your phone, then at any point somebody can say, hey, can you take a look at this? And it could be 7 a.m, it could be 7 p.m. I've had calls on the weekend. And my job was traditionally, well, as I understood it, a Monday to Friday. But that's not in reality what happened. So I started thinking, well, all this time I wanted to make my own thing. And all this effort that I'm putting into building up another business, could I do it for myself?
Okay.
So I thought about it. And one thing that was really impressed upon me at Beats and at Apple, even before that, but really at those places, was the importance of mentorship.
That's great.
So there are a couple of people that I talked to regarding almost any career decision.
Yes.
So they're former supervisors of mine. And it doesn't have to be a supervisor. One thing that I learned is that a mentor can be a peer.
Yes.
A lot of times people think of them as somebody that's older and wiser, but I think wisdom can come from somebody that's a peer. It can come from a child.
Yes.
I think somebody that has a different, maybe logical perspective, or maybe if your perspective is too logical, they come and look at the emotional part of it and say, well, what does your head say and what does your heart say?
I love that.
So I spoke to a couple of mentors about it, and one of them said, I think you're smart. You've been doing this really well. I mean, you're already putting in hours for this company. You might as well put in hours for yourself.
Yes.
I said, okay.
And then I remember one time I called you and you was like, I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning working on this project. I was like, 4. They said, oh yeah, my boss called me at 4 in the morning. I'm like, wow.
It was, yeah. He was in another country. He said we needed something. I happened to be up. There was a text, and then I was up. I replied, and that turned into a phone call. So I said I might as well just open the laptop and get it done.
Make it happen. You were about your business, and I think that's what made you so great. And I just saw that drive. I have that work ethic, so I know exactly how it is. But to see, I was like, that's what I'm talking about. You were on it. And I wasn't like 4 in the morning, like, what? I was just like, you handled it. You didn't even complain. You were just, you didn't say, cousin, because this is behind the scenes. You just was like, yeah, I had to do this. And it was like a matter of fact. And I was like, this is what I'm talking about. It just showed your work ethic. It showed your character and just the Christ in you. And I believe that's why they knew that they could trust you with the job, Yeah,
I think so. I think at some point, you don't want that to be the norm. So it was, I will say that there are high expectations.
Yes.
I tried to live up to that. And that was certainly respect that was reflected in my reviews, and then at times bonuses, which is great.
Yes.
I
still need my rest.
I still need my rest. Exactly. Exactly.
That's right. Yes.
So I started thinking about, well, how can I get a little bit more work-life balance? And then also, how can I build something for myself?
I love it.
And then how can I maybe use that to help people? Because I do love helping people.
Yes.
And how can I, if possible, build up a legacy that I can pass on to somebody else or pass on to the next generation.
I love it.
So that's when I started thinking a little bit more about my own business. And another mentor that I spoke with said, he looked at it a little bit more from a practical perspective. So it was the head versus the heart. And he said, well, what do your savings look like? And I said, well, I have a few months of savings. He said, well, why don't you do your own thing? And you're a smart guy. If it works out, great, continue. If it doesn't work out, you have some savings. and you start applying and going back in-house. So that was going on 3 years ago.
Okay.
And at times I had to dip into the savings, but I will say that the first client came in within a couple of months.
That's
and it's been pretty steady since then. Yes.
So wow, you've been at it for like 3 years now.
For a little bit over 3 years now,
Wow,
yes.
Such a blessing.
It's a huge blessing.
I love it.
Yes.
So how did you find the balance? Because that's one of the hardest things that I found, that people are trying to find balance with work, personal life, and because you look very fit. So look, you take care of yourself. You're a believer. How do you balance everything? Work, health, and career.
That's a great question.
And faith.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a saying, it's definitely not biblical, but everything in moderation, including moderation.
That's good.
So that's one. And then there's another one. How you do anything is how you do everything.
I love it.
So I'm a pretty intense person. So I think like answering an email or a call at 4 a.m. or working out, where I put my head down, I just try to get it done. But then the everything in moderation, including moderation, means sometimes you have to let go and let steam off. So I think balance, much like success, is different to different people.
That's true.
So like you said, I like to work out. So I might go to the gym a couple times or several times a week, and that's balance for me.
Yes.
But for another person, it might be just twice a week.
That's true.
And that's balance for them. So I think you have to look at what makes you comfortable.
I love that.
And that is the balance, because there's such, especially now, a bleed over from work to home. You have some places, a lot of people are remote, but more people are going back to the office.
Yes.
And then sometimes you might have childcare on site. So, or if you don't have childcare and you're working remote, then your childcare and you're trying to have a Zoom call and your toddler's in the background. So I think you have to figure out what makes you comfortable and then try to work towards that.
That's great.
So if you really love your job and you're building your business, then maybe the balance is a little bit more towards work.
Yes.
Because you get a sense of fulfillment from that, and you're building your business. And I'm single, so I can devote a bit more time to my job. But say I start a family, then I have to look at that and say, well, is the business with my partner?
That's great.
If not, then I might need to cut back on some hours. So that's another thing that I thought about when building the business is, how can I take on projects, or how can I build up my business so that I'm taking on projects that allow me to do the things that are important to me.
That's beautiful. I love it. Thank you. That's really good. That's really good. So finding balance, that's great how you explain that. And then, because like you said, balance for one might be two. For you, I know you go several times a week. But it works
it
for
does,
you.
It does.
It works for you. I love that. And that kind of motivates me, because I'm in the process, we're doing a series soon about the weight loss. And I'm like, Lord, for me, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, days a week is good for me a week. You know what I mean? Versus because of my schedule and just be trying to get into it. And it's hope. Like, okay, I like you said 2 days. That might work. But I love that.
As long as you're purposeful when you go.
Yes.
So one thing that I noticed that people would stay in the office late, and I'm guilty of this too. I work remotely. I'm very blessed to do that. But sometimes I'll look at something, or I might get distracted, and then something that should have taken me half an hour takes me an hour and a half or 45 minutes. And one thing that I noticed in one of the companies that I worked for, we had a head of legal, and lawyers typically work long hours. And he went from a law firm to corporate because he wanted to cut back on hours. And he was very clear and upfront when he joined. He said, I work from 7 to 7, and you can reach me between those hours.
Yes.
But if it's 7:01, you cannot reach me.
I love that.
The courts are not open. There's a lawsuit. I'll look at it at 7 a.m. tomorrow. But we are not. We're not, because I want to have time with my family.
Amen. You have to have balance. You have to find that balance, and you have to make your family and yourself a priority. It has to be a limit. Draw a limit. I love that.
So while he was there, so he may not have meetings from 7 to 7, but he would answer texts, emails, and set up and have work done in between that time. So while he was there, he was intense. He was
Yes,
focused.
yes.
He had you could get his calendar. But after that, do not think about that at all.
Yes.
On Wednesday, August 30th at 5 p.m. PDT. I repeat.
I don't know how that, apologize. I don't know how that happened. Okay.
so
Sorry about that.
It'll just be on there. I hope
Okay.
it wasn't private.
Okay. No, it just said I had a appointment reminder. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, yeah. So, and fear. And that was one of the things I didn't want to happen. Make sure we turn our phones off.
Yes.
So let's go into fear. But you need your phone for a reason. So that's just that's going to fear.
Yes.
That was a
Yeah.
fear, like no phones. But hey, it opens it up for fear. So tell us, Nevious, in your going forth in your job career, it's like, okay, I want to make this decision. This is what I want to do. So now, my question, did you have fear with your faith? Because, I noticed with me, when God told me to go out and do some things, I'm like, whoo, I had faith. But at the same time, that fear was like, Lord, I don't want to fail you. It wasn't a spirit of fear like, where God says he has not given us a spirit of fear, but love, power, and a sound mind. No, it was more so like fear, like, I don't want to mess up what you told me to do. Or did you have fear like, who am I going to mess, or did you have the fear?
I did. I did, yes. So I think I think the fear would come from not doing
unknown?
a good job. It's not necessarily the unknown for me. So I think there's at least some fear or maybe nervousness as a baseline, fear of the unknown. But a while back, I learned that if you are diligent and prayerful and align with what God wants for you, then you don't have to be fearful. So there's actually a trial or like a season of my life where things were difficult, at least professionally.
Yes.
And I felt like, all right, I'm applying to jobs and I'm not getting what I want. I'm not getting the raise that I want. I'm not making the moves that I want. And then I looked at it and I thought, am I really doing everything that I could? So I took a step back and I turned it into a system. I had a spreadsheet. I would call, I would apply, I would follow up, and I would do it religiously like it was a job.
Yes.
And I would look at openings, I would look at requirements, I tried to take classes, and then it got to the point where I said, there can't be that many people more qualified than I am for these roles. I feel like I have done what I need to do.
Yes.
And I think that had to be an honest assessment that I really was doing everything that I could do. So, and I think I think sometimes we will go into a situation and said, I did everything I could. But it's like if you have a test on Friday and you didn't open the book until Thursday and then you pray before the test, that's not really going to cut it.
That's true.
But if someone was studying for 2 weeks before and being diligent about it and prayerful and maybe staying after class, that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, the Bible tells us to study to show yourself approved. A workman need not be ashamed. Rightly divided the spirit of truth.
Yes.
So if you study to show yourself approved, you approved.
Exactly.
It's going to manifest.
Exactly. And that's where, and sometimes that could be really hard work. I think sometimes people think that being a believer, being a Christian is easy, or that, there won't be any trials or tribulations.
Yes.
And it's not that God is putting these things there. He may allow it to happen to strengthen us.
Yes, that's the key, to strengthen.
Yes, to strengthen us, but it's really the enemy. And then God says, well, in order to get to this next level,
yes, I'm using it for your good.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to strengthen you, or it's going to be a testimony, or both.
Yes.
So when I started putting in more effort and concerted effort, that's when I felt like, okay, there can't be this many people working harder at this and smarter than I am. I won't say that I'm the most intelligent person, but I felt like you can control effort.
Yes.
So I felt like if I put in the effort to advertising my business and recruiting clients and networking and putting myself out there and praying, then I will get the business.
Yeah.
And eventually that started happening. And I noticed that when I'm not as diligent, when I start to coast, when I start to get a little bit too comfortable, that's when I feel fearful.
Yes.
But when I
you become complacent.
When I become complacent,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
But when I'm pressing and pushing forward and praying about it.
Focus.
Exactly. That's when I feel like, okay, it's not today. It may not be tomorrow, but it's going to happen.
And when you're focused, you actually have your focus on God.
Yes.
I think when the fear comes in is when you take your eyes off of God or off what the last thing he told you to do. You know, but if you keep your eyes, okay, I'm going to stay focused on the last thing we talked about, you told me to do, or my career choice or whatever, my dream or whatever I'm working towards, then you actually can get there. You know, and I believe because you're focusing on that thing and you're diligently doing it, I think that's great. I think that's really good, Nevious. And it takes faith.
It does. It does.
You know, it takes faith. You know, because I noticed when God had took me through a season with my faith, because I was always known as a woman of great faith. Robin, you have faith. Girl, you got faith. Oh, thank you. But then God started to test me, he allowed testing of my faith. And he began to take me from where the Bible says he takes you from faith to faith. And from you know, and I'm like, whoo, Jesus. And I didn't realize at the time that he was taking me from faith to faith. I thought, you know, what happened to my faith? I said, what happened to my faith? I thought I was a woman of great faith. And what happened, God, was what he was doing, he was elevating my faith level. He's like, you mastered that point. Now I need to take you to another level in your faith journey. And when I got there, it seemed like I didn't have faith anymore. And I got to a place where I began to know God as 2 Corinthians 4:16, where it tells us, you know, what you see is just temporary. What you don't see is eternal.
Okay.
Because I was like, whoo, that's where that faith over facts became in my life. And I began to say, Lord, whoo, this is a faith over facts. Like, you know, that's where he began to develop faith over facts in my life in that season where he was elevating my faith, where the facts was one thing, but that faith, I had to let that faith be way beyond the facts, because what I saw, Robin, it's just temporary what you see. Don't worry. Don't get off track. What you don't see is eternal. And I had to hold on to the eternal part, you know, and allow my faith to take me from level to level and in hope. You know, that's why he said, for faith is the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things not seen.
Yes.
Because sometimes you got to step out on that, okay, I need to hope for my future. It's not looking too good right now, but I believe your word, God, and what your word says. I'm gonna put my hope and trust in you, and not try to figure this thing out on my own. If you place me here, I know you're gonna keep me here. If you place me here, you're gonna be that provider. You will be Jehovah Jireh in my life. You will provide. You'll be my provision.
Yes.
You will do whatever I need. And he began, Nevious, at this point of literally, I would be outside meditating before I go into work, and it would be like in the morning, because I'm an early riser for work. It would be like 5:30, 6 in the morning, and I'm waiting, you know, for my client to come so we can get out together. And because it was early, so I kind of wanted to get out together for safety reasons. But Nevious, I would see, guys, you see that bird? You see that bird? What's going on with that bird? I said, it's getting food. He said, exactly, it got food. If I could take care of the birds and the lilies in the field, how much more would I do for you?
That's one of my favorite scriptures. Do not worry about tomorrow.
Tomorrow will take care of itself.
Yeah, each day has enough trouble on its own.
Yes. He said, if I could take care of those lilies and those birds, how much more would I do for you? Don't worry about tomorrow, for it'll take care of itself. Because I was like, Lord, you placed me here. It's getting a little hard. You know, you stretching my faith. I trust you. I haven't stopped trusting you. But it's like, he said, but if I could take care of those birds, how much more would I do for you? I created you in my image. And he began to have me, you know, see that. And then sometimes it got a little more difficult at times, right? And I remember this one day, he said, okay, you got it, but you're not getting it, because I'm stretching you even more now. Because at this point, he really took me out of my comfort zone. He said, I need you to leave your business. That wasn't even fully, at one point, my business was thriving. And it got to the place where it was like, who, Lord, are you coming? Lord, are you going to pay this today? But he started shifting some things around. Pandemic and different things was happening. And the salon just wasn't flourishing the way it used to flourish. I'm like, Lord, what's going on? And he says, time to leave. Time to leave? And he had me move. He had me leave. And I said, okay, God, you had me leave, and it's not even taking care of itself here, but you want me to move to another place. And I did. I moved exactly what he moved like he told me to move. And I remember Nevious driving, and it was a building that went out of business, and all of a sudden, I would go past it every day on my way to work. But what happened was, the weeds start growing, and at one point, it seemed like the weeds was just growing. But this bush was this flower, the roses was this blooming, beautiful, in the midst of all of these weeds. He said, if I could do that come on. So he went from past the birds. Now, you see the lilies? You see these flowers? I'm taking care of those too. How much more would I do for you?
There's a plan for everything.
Yes.
Yeah, God has a plan for everything.
For everything. And he said, don't worry about that. And I believe that a lot of times, and that's where I think after I went through the bush one, I went through the birds, but I'm like, yeah. But then I think he said, let me show you something else. And then when he began to show me, I said, Lord, your thoughts are not my thoughts. Your ways are not my ways. I trust you. I trust your plan for my life. It's not to harm me. Jeremiah tells us it's not to harm us. It's to give us peace so that we can have an expected end. I'm going to trust you.
I think that's a big one, like trust and then humility. I've been reading a little bit more about that. Humility is something that I struggle with. And I think that we have to humble ourselves, not just to each other, but to God. And I think when we pray, I don't know how a lot of people do it, but as a little kid, I was taught to get out on my knees and pray. And then sometimes I might stand up and pray, or I might sit down. But I really started thinking about it, and I thought it's an act of reverence.
Yes.
So in the morning, definitely in the morning when I get up, I try to actually do the act of getting on my knees and on the edge of my bed, just like when I was a little kid.
Yeah, I love that.
And praying, because it reminds me that it's a great start to the day, and it reminds me that God is in control.
Amen.
And it's submitting my day to him.
Amen.
And that is a big part to me. It's almost like, it's to the point now where if I don't do that, I feel it. It feels like something's wrong.
Yes, it is off.
So I might think, I have a meeting today, I'm late, or I need to get something together. And then I'll be reading, and I'll think, I didn't pray. All right, this is weird.
And you can feel it. You can
feel
it. You can definitely feel it.
You can feel it.
Definitely.
And so I think it's that humility to say, okay, God has this.
Yeah,
it's not I got this. It's God has this, or God got me. So that's where I try to start. I'm not saying that I definitely don't always do it. It's still a work in progress for me. But I can definitely feel a difference from when I do it versus when I don't do it.
Amen.
And I will say, when I miss it and I feel it, when I go to that place, to our closet, as the Bible says, and pray, I feel the shift. I feel a shift.
Exactly. Because I try to do the same thing. I try to put my armor on. I try to make sure I yield. If there's a moment where I'm rushing and because I try to have that time with God before I even get out the bed. And if I don't, I feel it. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel, I'm like, oh man, I forgot. And I know that he still hears us, but it's something that I desire to do with him. I give reverence, I give honor to him, I surrender unto him, I yield unto him. This is your day, the Lord. What are we going to do today? How do you want to do this thing through my life? And I think that's important, and I believe that he will order our footsteps, in the way, in the direction he will have us to go.
Yes.
He will light it. He'll light our path, and allow us to see the direction. Do you notice that when you're on your journey, did you ever notice that it was like a magnet was drawing you to the different people that you needed to meet? Was it easy I found when you walk it in the journey and the things that God is calling you to do, it's like magnets. It draws whatever you need is drawn to you. Did you ever feel like you didn't have to go look for a lot of things? Like you said, you had the mentors. It seemed like everything you needed to get you to your dream and your destiny and your journey, it seemed like it was coming to you.
That's an interesting question, because it doesn't always line up that way. And I think that could be due to prayer, maybe lack thereof. And we were talking a little bit before the podcast, and I said that there are a lot of open doors, but there are a lot of closed doors. And there are some doors I was pushed through.
Oh yeah.
and I didn't necessarily want to go through that door, or maybe a door was slammed in my face. But it seems like the doors that were closed for a reason. And then in retrospect, I would think, okay, that makes sense. So I think I understand the magnet or the magnetism analogy. I think in some cases that's the case. And I think in some cases there were a series of doors that I walked through or were closed for me.
Yes.
And I can think of, or maybe there was a door that I walked through and then said, I don't know if this is the right one, and then walk back out. There was actually a role.
Oh, I like that.
Yes, there was a role that I took, and I won't say the name, but it was a pretty prominent company that I think most people would be familiar with. But I was a little bit uncomfortable with some of what they did, and I'm not sure that I prayed about it. I have to be upfront about that. I'm not sure that I prayed about it. And I was going back and forth with them about, we were negotiating. We had gone down to the offer stage. And then I said, I don't think I can do this. One, I don't think it aligns with what I believe in. And then two, frankly, I just didn't see the vision for the company. Okay. And when I take on roles, when I was on the corporate side of things or on the client side of things, I would look at the culture, the challenge of the role, and the compensation. Okay. So I think a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to make more money. Not all money is good money.
That's so true.
Some people believe that. I don't believe that. So I'm not going to judge on that. But for me, I can't say that all money is good money. But and this would have been one of the cases, but I thought it's good money. Yeah. It's literally like it's a good salary, so I'll take a look at it. And I just didn't see the vision. And then I checked, and a few months later, the company wasn't doing as well. Wow. And because I said, I don't know if this is the right role for me. And then a few months after that, it wasn't doing as well. The performance was slipping. And I thought, okay, maybe I dodged a bullet, but also it wasn't the right place for me.
Yeah, that's good.
So I felt like, as a person of faith, God was saying, maybe that's not where you need to be. And if I had ended up there, that wouldn't have been. So there's the spiritual blessing and there's a material blessing. It may not have been the spiritual blessing, and it may not have been the material blessing.
If it's a spiritual blessing, it's going to be materialized. God will provide it when you walk in. Because if he provides it, he's going to make provision.
Yes.
And I noticed, and it's so true, God opens, and the doors that God opens stay open. But the doors that man opens will soon shut in your face. It can open and close in your face. It's because man, I'm going to say fickle a little bit.
Yeah.
But the door, Isaiah tells us about the doors.
Fickle. Man, very fickle.
Yeah, Isaiah tells us about how if God opened that door, it's open. And no man can shut it if he opened it. And so, I noticed those doors that God opens, it's like a magnet. That's what I noticed. The ones that God, when I'm actually walking in the thing that God has called me to walk in, and I feel like I don't have to try to figure it out. It comes to me.
Yeah.
But those doors that I wanted to go through, because I feel like, that seems interesting. Those doors sometimes was shut in my face, and it hurt. But I realized it was a good thing that it was shut, because it wasn't for me.
Yeah, it's not.
But sometimes it can look like it's for you. But until God really begins to show you what's for you, it's like you had something inside of you. You knew, I want to be an entrepreneur. This is something I have a dream to be this one day, and hopefully because your cousin was a business owner, I kind of rubbed off on you.
There's definitely some inspiration there. To say, you're one of the people that I mentioned. Super proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, but from a family perspective,
yes.
I mentioned you and your husband, the way that you are with your daughters, the way that you are with each other, your ministry, and a longtime business owner.
Amen.
So you're definitely one of the inspirational people in my life. I don't know that I actually tell you that.
You know what? Well, thank you, Nevious. I didn't mean to say it, but I appreciate that. But I was just throwing it. I was playing with you, but thank you. I received that.
I'll give you your flowers on air.
Thank you.
And you're one of the people that that I mentioned as being inspirational in professional and a personal capacity.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Nevious. Thank
Yeah.
you. See what happens when you just throw stuff out there? Hey, get your little flowers. But you know what? Thank you. And I'm excited but sometimes you have to go through those seasons.
I'm gonna tell you actually a really good story. I used to tell this story. I told it to a few of my friends. So this was, let's see, during the Great Recession. It was actually post Great Recession.
2002, 2008.
Yeah, 2008. Yeah. So this was post Great
Before.
Recession, but it was recovery.
Oh,
so things were
okay.
getting better, but they weren't great.
Okay.
So I I was laid off. I was actually laid off back to back.
Okay.
So that was a big test of faith. That's another story. But the second time I was laid off, I knew it was coming. I had a little bit more faith, and I was a little bit more prepared. So I'm interviewing as actually recruited for a role. And it's always the best when you get recruited because you have a little bit more negotiating power. You have a little bit more leverage. So I was recruited, and this was a company. I'm not going to say the name, but it did not align with my values, and I say that not as like a holier than thou Christian. We all have our faults, but it was something that was a little bit out of my league. I'll say that, but it was a good role, and the pay was really good. So I went on the interview, and I had to meet everybody from, I think, accounting, all these different departments, VPs. I even met the CFO, 10th level. Corner office, 10th floor, corner office, view of the city in Beverly Hills. Amazing.
Wow.
I was drooling. It was amazing. And
I love it.
The whole time I was thinking, I don't know if this is for me, the company, but I really want this role, and I can have blinders on, and I won't be a part of anything here. I'll just do my work, cash a check, go home. So I was there for probably 4 hours. Now, Flag One, they actually own the building, and they rented out space in the building. So they made a lot of money. They didn't have parking. They wouldn't validate parking for me when I interviewed. They said, you have to park in the street. I said, that's odd, but okay. I park in the street. It's 3-hour parking. Now, this is in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
So in Beverly Hills in LA, traffic gets terrible in rush hour. So they have no parking after, I believe, 4 p.m. Otherwise, they'll tow your car.
Oh, wow.
So I was in there, and I told the recruiter, I need to move my car at such and such a time because my car is going to get towed since I can't park in your lot. She said, okay. So I go through the interviews, have my alarm set, leave the interview and say, I need to move my car. And she said, no, I'll take care of it. I'll put money in the meter. And I was thinking, I don't know if that's how it works, but okay. So fast forward, I exit the last interview 3 or 4 hours later, go downstairs. I don't see the recruiter. I say, okay. I'm walking to my car, and I see the recruiter walking towards me. And I think, wait a second. This should have been taken care of. So she walks up to me, and she said, I don't see your car.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, I parked right on La Cienega and something. And she said, yeah, I think they towed it. I said, wait a second. I told you that I needed to move my car. I couldn't just put more quarters in. She said, yeah, I think they towed it. So I look at the sign. I called them. They said, yeah, we have your car. And I said, well, I don't have a car. I need to get to the yard. And there's actually a process. You have to go to the police department, get a form.
Goodness.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. So long story short, she said, I can take you to the police department to get the form to get your car out, but I can't take you to the yard. And I was thinking, okay, because she had some family obligations. I was thinking, wait a second. So I don't have a job, not to pay for a taxi, and pay money to get my car.
Oh my goodness.
Y'all need to hire me.
Yes.
So I get the form, go to the yard, and it starts raining. So it's like everything that could happen.
Yes.
And this is in April, and it was a warm day. But I just had one of those April showers popped up. So I put on my wipers because it's raining. And when the wiper goes up, I see a paper on the windshield. So apparently what happens is when you get towed for no parking because of the traffic, they give you a ticket. So you have to pay for the form at the police department that proves you own the car. You have to pay for the tow to get your car out, and you have to pay for a ticket.
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't have a job. Oh, and I had to pay for a taxi to get there.
Oh my goodness.
Right. So after that, I said, this is not, okay, Lord, I got you. This is not, this is not the role for me. And a couple weeks later, she called and said, hey, they really liked you. Do you want to? I said, no, I can't. I can't. This is
was
not,
like every sign.
Yeah, this is everything. Whatever could go wrong went wrong. And it was almost like a biblical plague, it felt like. But it really just showed me that, okay, there are certain roles that,
it's just not for you.
yeah, it's just not for me. And again, not to sound holier than thou or like I'm above something, but if it doesn't align, then
that's it.
Yeah,
it has to align.
It's not it. So
all
it's
about
like,
a proper alignment.
Yeah. So that I definitely learned a strong lesson that day.
That's awesome. Alignment is everything. If it's not in alignment with God's will, or you can tell when it gets off, like, hold on, God, all this, because stuff happens. The devil will mess with you, but it's a different form.
Yes. It was next level.
That was a whole other level.
It was
of drama.
when I actually had to laugh when I saw the ticket, because the ticket popped up.
It.
And I was thinking, what is this paper? And the guy that pulled my car said, oh yeah, that's a ticket. I said, what? He said, yeah, that's a ticket, like, because you got towed. I'm like, well, I'm paying for the tow. He said, no, the tow was one thing, the ticket is something else. Okay.
And you didn't have a job.
And I didn't have a job. I was still jobless. So I think the next month I got a job. And that's actually when I started working for Tom's Shoes, which was a lot more aligned with my values.
You introduced me to Tom's Shoes. I said, yes. Those were so comfortable.
Yeah. So it was definitely a huge... definitely a huge blessing.
Because you traveled. Let's talk about that experience.
Yeah. So
I feel like that's all part of your journey.
It was. So Tom's does something, if you're there for, I think it's a year, 3 years, 5 years, or they did it when I was there, you would go on they call it a shoe drop. So you would deliver, you would be part of the supply chain process that delivered shoes to children in need. So not only did they pay for shoes to go to these countries or areas in need, they would pay for your trip, and then they paid for the logistics too, because you think about it, if you order something online, then you're paying for the shoes or the dress or the pants, but you have to pay for shipping too.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't think about that. And when you're sending goods to a country or people in need, it's not just the value of those goods, it's also how do they get there.
Yes.
So Tom's would take care of that. And then as a learning experience or an immersion experience, they would pay for some of their employees to go and help distribute the shoes. So I was able to do that.
I used to love supporting it, because they would give you a shoe. Once you buy, at Nordstrom's, I know they had it where if you bought a pair of shoes, they would donate.
Yes.
I was always buying.
They also expanded into eyewear. So if you bought a pair of glasses, they would give glasses away. They would give eye exams away as well. And they started sponsoring more and more projects, I think Clean Water as well, with their one-for-one distribution model. So that was a really great experience. But it was one of those times where a door was opened and then I walked through it and walked back out, or it was kind of shut in my face, and my car was it sounded like a country music song. God said, not this door, we're gonna go through another. That exactly.
Not this one. I had something greater, and I feel like that was definitely greater.
It was definitely more in line with my values. It was one of the best companies that I
remember that, John. You were very, I just remember those. That was a great experience for me. Just watching you and the way you came back with the stories of how you were helping so many different people. That was beautiful.
It was amazing.
Yes.
It was amazing to help. There was a lot of learning that happened, and it actually helped.
Humbling too.
Humbling, yes, to see how much we have. And I wake up and say, well, which shoes do I want to wear today? Yes. Where some people are thinking, I would just like shoes.
Exactly.
And that's such a big difference. That's very humbling. It definitely helps create an attitude of gratitude.
Amen. Definitely. Wow. Ooh, wow. How was patience when you going into your into this journey? Tell me, because patience is no joke. waiting for it to manifest, waiting for it to actually be that company that you dreamed was dream. And I'm pretty sure it's still not exactly everything you want it to be because you're still growing,
I'm still
right?
working, yes. I'm still working on
It's
it.
a work in progress, a dream in progress, or working on your journey. But tell me, patience. How did that impact your life? Did you have patience? Did you struggle with the patience?
I think the time.
Did you come impatient?
I've definitely been impatient, or thought, all right, I need to. So when I first started, there was about 2-3 months maybe where I was actively looking for clients, and then there was another. Actually, earlier this year, there was a bit of a downturn, and there was less business than I was accustomed to. So I would be used to a certain amount of business, and then when that lowered, I think a lot of people, it's called income creep,
yes,
where you make a certain amount and then you are at a certain level and then you make a little bit more. You say, well, I'm going to spend a little bit more. So I think that taught me a little bit of humility and saying, all right, maybe I should be a little bit more careful about how I'm spending, even if the business is going up, just to make sure that if something does happen, I have something left over. But I think really when I've been impatient, it's when I haven't been as focused and working on the business.
That's good.
Because it goes back to the example where I said, I think that I'm a reasonably intelligent person, and I think that I have good experience, and I think I'm a hard worker. So I can't, in my mind, I think, and not to sound arrogant, but I think it's a confidence that I have. I don't think there are that many people that have all of those in an amount that's greater than what I have.
That's great.
So I think, and these are all things that you can work on. So intelligence, I think some people maybe process things differently, but everyone can read or focus on that. I think everyone can work on their experience, whether that's, YouTube, you can go Coursera, there's so many online courses now, where a lot of companies are relaxing a degree requirement and they're looking at experience, or have you done a YouTube tutorial or a Coursera. You can go online now and audit courses and then take tests and like on a LinkedIn, and then have that certification on and have just as much or almost as much experience as somebody that's been in a role.
Wow.
So I would think if I take away all the excuses, I can educate myself, I can get experience, I can ask people, I can work on projects, I can build things, and I can put in effort. All of that I think is a combination of effort, and I can ask for guidance. So I would think I may not be the smartest person, I may not have the most experience or have gone to the best school,
yes,
but when I put all those things together, I can't think of I'm not going to be at the bottom.
I love it.
So
you have to have confidence.
Yes. So I would think about that, and I'd
people
say,
look for that.
I'd say I'm good at making business money.
Yes.
And I had been doing that, so I
Yes.
thought if I can do that internally, I can do that
For
externally.
yourself, exactly.
So I think when I've been impatient, it's when I've been a little bit lax. And it's not a biblical saying, but there's an old school saying that says, an idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Yes, it really
So
is.
impatience sort of creeps in when I'm twiddling my thumbs. But
when you
really, I
when
can be building my business. I can take a class. I can network. I can reach out to people. And then when I've done all that, I can pray. Or even before that, I can pray. But after that, I can pray. And I can rest.
Yes.
And then say, okay.
Start again.
Start again. Exactly. So when I'm not doing what proactive and doing what I should do, that's when I feel a bit more fearful. But that's because somebody else could be working and somebody else could be doing something. And I know in the back of my mind, I'm not really doing everything that I should be doing. But when I am doing everything that I should be doing, then I don't necessarily feel, I think it's just a matter of time. And I won't say that I'm overconfident and I think, I'm never going to worry about it. Some doubt does creep in.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing everything that I should be doing, then I feel a lot better.
That's so good. That's really good. For many reasons. The key is focus. The key is staying focused on God and focus on the task at hand.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And if you do that, you'll see something. You'll
see results.
You'll see. Definitely.
You have to be comfortable working towards something without seeing immediate results.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to take risks.
And don't exactly. And don't be afraid to take, because I think you can go a certain route, but say somebody wants to be a doctor and millions of people have become doctors. It's a hard road, but you study, you have to take a test, you study, take more tests, you get certifications, and then if you, depending on what specialty you do, there's even more school. So you are working with the hope and faith that you will become a doctor. And I look at your journey, and you were interested in cosmetology and hair and makeup.
Yes.
And I know that you worked in entertainment earlier on. And then you said, I want my own shop. But you took a risk. You said, this is something that I'm interested in.
Yes.
And you said, I'm going to go to school for this. I'm going to study it. I'm going to do well. I'm going to perfect my craft. And then I'm going to step out in faith and open a shop or apply for this or talk to people or go on this set and do this person's makeup. And it's going to be seen by hundreds of thousands or millions of people, or do their hair. It's going to be seen by all these people. So there's always some sort of, you have to put yourself out there.
That's true.
And you have to step out in faith. And if you want to accomplish something, there's always going to be some risk involved. So you have to prepare yourself and then say, all right, I'm comfortable with this risk. I've done everything that I can do. And really say I've done everything that I can do, because sometimes we'll say, oh, I did everything I could do, knowing that we opened the book at Thursday night at midnight for that Friday morning test. So
true.
If we did everything that we really knew that we could do, then you don't have to worry about it.
That's true. That is so true, Nevious. That's so true. Whew, wow. This was good. This was really good. Would you like to leave us with anything? And I definitely would love for you just to let us know, let the audience know, how can they get in touch with you if they want your services?
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. So my business is called Ad Angeles. So just like Los Angeles, but Ad ADANGELES.com. So you can reach me there. It tells a little bit more about my professional background. You can see some of the work that I've done, and you can reach out to me and contact me directly there as well. And I think in parting, Faith Over Facts is a great name for a ministry and a podcast, because I started out in accounting and finance. That's very fact-based. And I tell people that I'm like, if I were a disciple, I'd be Thomas. I need to touch the nails in the hand, because I don't believe anything you tell me unless I see some data to back it up. I think that God is probably one of the few things that I believe in where I haven't seen him, but I feel him.
Exactly.
So I would encourage people to pray, to take risks, and to, if you're a fact person like myself, to really lean into that feeling. And realize that it's not all what we can see. And there's something greater than what we can see. So I think if we keep that in mind, then we'll be all right.
I'm telling you. Wow. Thank you so much, Nevious.
Oh, you're welcome.
Ooh, this was a great episode. Faith Over Facts. Thank you so much, cousin. This is great. And if you enjoyed today, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And I want to leave you with a homework assignment. So I'm going to try to give you homework assignments a lot. And today's homework assignment is I am moving towards my dream. I am walking in faith. Because a lot of times, whatever it is, you might not be, I don't have a dream, but whatever it is that you are desiring God to do in your life, you're walking in faith. I am walking in faith. No matter how it looks, remember, what it looks like is just temporary, but what you don't see is eternal. So know that God does the impossible. He does the things that you cannot see. He does the impossible things in your life. So have faith and allow that faith, even if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can have itty bitty faith, but allow that faith to move mountains in your life and allow you to walk through some doors that God has for you. And like Nevious said, it was some doors he walked through. He said, oh, I had to do a turn. So sometimes don't be afraid to take risks, and don't be afraid to move through the impossible seasons in your life. Bye, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to Faith Over Facts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We have new episodes every Friday. If you would like to support the ministry by donating or purchasing Faith Over Facts merch, please do so by visiting my website, RobinReneeMinistries.com. See you next time. Bye-bye.